just foresight in and out of the industry. The one, the only Rocco DiSangro from WBFF, Fox 45. That's right. You see him on your TV screen. You see him on your streaming devices nightly, right around 10:50, which is actually right now, ironically, when he comes on and brings you the hottest sports news. But if you don't know who he is, Rocco DiSangro, sports analyst and anchor who joined in May of 2022, born and raised right outside of Philly. So, Dre, there you go. Our second home, the city of brotherly love. We were talking about some cheesesteak. Degree in journalism from Temple University. Big shout out to Temple. Graduated in 2016. Rocco started out in WTVY in Dothan, Alabama, where he's worked as a sports reporter in 2016 and 2018. He then went on to WHNT in Huntsville, Alabama, spending 3.5 years as sports director, and was fortunate to cover you guys' team, Raj and Dre, the Alabama Roll Tide in college football, and of course Auburn basketball when they made it to the Final Four as well. Do you want to give him a Roll Tide before we bring him up? Because I'm sure it's been a while, and college football is almost here. You guys want to give him a Roll Tide?
Sure.
Yes,
hey, the Leather Cancer Brothers, go ahead and do it. Roll Tide.
That's right. Joining us on the Flex Zone podcast, the illustrious, the wonderful, the magnificent, the one, the only WBFF Fox 45 sports anchor and reporter. You can catch him weeknights on there and on the Ryan Ripken podcast as well. The one, the only, Rocco DiSangro joins us here on the Flex Zone podcast. Put your hands together. He's in the building.
Appreciate you guys. Oh, man.
Rocco, what's up, my brother?
Listen, it's still going. I love it. Keep it going. Let's go. That was one heck of an intro. If I had a brick wall in my house, I'd run through it right now. Like, I'm fired up and I'm ready to go with you guys. It was awesome. Another thing, I'm glad because my girlfriend went to Clemson and she bought me a Clemson hat. I'm really glad I didn't wear that hat. I thought about it, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with the just plain black hat instead. No logos, no nothing on it. So I didn't want to rub anyone the wrong way and wear that hat. So I'm glad I didn't because we got the Roll Tides in here. So grateful to join you guys. Thanks so much for having me on. And I'm pumped to do this. Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Let's get to it, Rocco. Before we get your sports takes, I know the fellas got a lot of questions to ask you. We've been going back and forth all day. For those who may not know or living under that rock, who you are, what you do, let the people know who you are, what you do, and just your day-to-day and kind of just your story in general.
No, I appreciate that, man. I am, I'm a sports anchor reporter at Fox 45 right now. I've been doing it since May of 2022. I also do the Ryan Ripken Show with a great team we have over there. Ryan, Brad, Zach, Kevin. We do episodes on Mondays. We do episodes on Thursdays, and we do a lot of content when it comes to the O's as well. So that's kind of what I'm up to right now. But for me, I'm just a kid from Levittown, Pennsylvania. LeBron was just a kid from Akron. I'm just a kid from Levittown, Pennsylvania, on a much smaller scale than LeBron James. He's obviously the greatest, if not one of the greatest to play the game. I'm not even close to that on my scale in sports broadcasting. Want to get there someday, though. But that's where I'm from. Went down to Alabama, like you guys touched on, and glad to be closer to home in Baltimore. Love this city. It's my second home, and the people here, the fans, just everything about it is so great. It's so fantastic. And I don't think I could be in a better place right now in my career at this point in time.
Well, we appreciate you being here, Rocco. I know the fellas want to get those questions in, so we're going to let them shoot. And, the floor is yours, my brother. Appreciate you again.
Yeah, man. It's funny. I call Philly my second home. So.
It's all back and forth, man.
I want to get right to it, man. I got to ask you your opinion on this. Mark Schlereth recently said that Lamar Jackson is a mediocre quarterback during the playoffs. Do you agree with what he said, or do you disagree and think that Lamar Jackson isn't mediocre during the playoffs?
I don't think you could use mediocre in any way when it comes to Lamar Jackson and what he brings to the game of football, if you're talking about it. If you want to look at his playoff record, fine. But the last time I checked, football is a team sport, and you cannot solely put it on one guy to win or lose you football games. The Ravens as a whole, offensively, they didn't play up to their standards in the AFC Championship game. I think we can all agree with that. 6 rushes from a team that prides itself on the run, it just didn't make sense to anyone. And John Harbaugh has been asked about it throughout the offseason, as he should be. That's not going to win you football games ever when you're the Baltimore Ravens and you pride yourself on the run game. I don't agree with Lamar being mediocre in the postseason. This guy is a 2-time MVP. He is one of the best, if not the best, dual threat quarterback of all time. Cam Newton even said that the other day. He's like, people say me. He's like, I think it's Lamar. I have that physicality to me. Like Cam could run through people. Lamar has that straight line speed where you're not going to catch. And check the numbers. Check the tape. I mean, the numbers don't lie with this guy. He is phenomenal in what he does. He carries himself the right way off the field. The Baltimore Ravens right now, this fan base, Ravens flock, could not have a better guy, a better person leading the charge right now here in Baltimore. People are going to have their opinions about Lamar. He is one of the most criticized players, not just in football, but in all sports. People are going to have their opinions about him all the time. You flip on ESPN or any channel, really, they're talking about Lamar Jackson. It's like 90% of the time you're going to see his name brought up, whether it's for good, whether it's for bad. It's just how he is. And at the end of the day, I don't think Lamar cares. Lamar is going to go about his business and do his thing the way he does it all the time. And his goal at the end of the day is to lead this team to a Super Bowl. And I think he has a really good chance to do so this season. But again, team sport, you can't just rely heavily on one player, regardless of if they're your 2-time MVP or not, to solely win you postseason games. The record's one thing. I understand. I get it. But to say Lamar Jackson is mediocre, we're just going to forget about the game against the Texans. It's like, no, come on. What are we doing here?
Let me ask you this, too, as a follow-up. Nick Wright also pointed out the fact that the Ravens, when they have their playoff loss, that's the lowest time that they score offensively. What do you think could be a factor in that, being that the Ravens have these high-scoring games, have a high winning percentage, but then when it comes to the playoffs, those numbers offensively dip?
I really don't know. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I think that at times in the AFC Championship game, I think the Ravens thought too much. They were overthinking game plan wise with that. And I think that's why we saw them just get away from the run game and what they do best. Because when you have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game on the other side of the field, on that other sideline, listen, you guys, I'm sure, play video games like I do as well. I don't know. I could be assuming things, but
no, I play Madden.
No, we play.
I feel like we all play video games. Like
Yeah.
guys just love to play video games. That's what we like to do. We love to play video games, hang out with our friends. It's guy things half the time. But to like if you're playing someone with a better record than you, or like you're playing, say you're playing one of your friends and you're like, this guy's beaten me like 8 times. Like I got to go out and like throw the kitchen sink at him right now and just throw everything at him to beat him. And I'm sorry I'm putting it into video game terms, but that's I'm not a football player. That's kind of what I know, man. So it's like we overthink things sometimes.
Mhm.
I think the Ravens in that game, they just overthought their game plan and they got away from it. And they're saying, okay, there were certain scenarios where the Chiefs will load the box, this and that. I'm telling you this, man. They should have ran the ball more than they did. They know it. It's a reason they went out and got Derrick Henry, because Roquan Smith said it best. It's going to make us stick to what we do best, and that is run the ball. I'll tell you this. If Derrick Henry gets 6 carries in an AFC Championship game, this fan base will implode. They will be they will not overreact. They will react accordingly, and I'm telling you that because I've seen it before. Like, it's just not going to happen with him in the backfield.
And judging by the fan base, do you think that John Harbaugh's course, do you think that his time almost might be up? I mean, just in case we do have this brutal schedule coming up. I mean, I think we have 3 games in 10 days, I believe, near the end of the season. I mean, this is probably one of the hardest schedules I've seen in a good while. So in case we don't make it back to the AFC Championship game, I'm not saying we're not, because we could, we should, but in case we don't, do you think that John Harbaugh's time in this city might be up?
I mean, anything could happen, obviously, but I'm a believer in John Harbaugh. I know there are a lot of people out there that are on the train of, they're not a fan of what Harbaugh's doing and they're not a fan of his coaching style or coaching abilities. But we talk about the numbers and the stats. Like, I mean, this guy has been one of the most successful coaches and one of the longest tenured coaches, and it's not by mistake. Like, he has a Super Bowl already here in Baltimore, and I think he's going to get another one in due time. When that happens, I don't know, but I don't think there's going to be any brash decisions. Now I'll say this. If the Ravens like have a complete collapse with the team they have this year and they're healthy, anything can happen. I'm not ruling anything out. But do I think that John Harbaugh is, his time's up here in Baltimore? No, I don't. I do say this, and I you got to think, it's like, who did the Ravens tick off of the NFL offices to get the schedule that they did? That stretch, that grueling stretch, not only that, but to play on Christmas for the second straight year, to be away from their families, that's crazy, man. Yeah. Like, it's crazy, the schedule that they got and the teams they have to face upcoming. Like, it is a grueling stretch. So, I mean, it's going to make or break potentially what they're doing in the later months of the season. Like, you look at that, we all looked at the stretch this season. I did especially, and it was at the end of the year. Okay, the Ravens have a gauntlet right now, facing the 49ers, facing the Jags, facing the teams they had to beat, the potential playoff teams and the contenders that were so good. And you know what they did? I mean, they went out and they dominated. And you look at the loss to the Steelers and you're like, they didn't even play their starters that game because they didn't have to.
Right.
They didn't have to. So this season, I want to see the Ravens do the same thing. I want to see them go out and dominate in that stretch and show everyone what this team is about. I don't think Roquan Smith or a Derrick Henry or even a Lamar Jackson is going to let this team fail. They want to win so badly. They want to bring this city a Super Bowl. And I mean, obviously that's a goal with every team when they go into a season, is to hoist that Lombardi trophy high. So I think you're going to see that with this team. They're contenders, but they're not going to be content until they do so.
Well, here's my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Okay, besides Harbaugh, everybody like drags our wide receiving core. Of course, we don't have the best wide receiving core in all of football. I mean, we all know this. But I will say, Flowers, he has potential to be a number one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have Rashad Bateman. We don't know yet. He's a question mark because he's been hurt, every now and again.
Yep.
And then we still have Aguilar.
Yep.
And we have the rookie, of course, who we just drafted. I think Flowers is going to be fine.
Yep.
But do you think that Bateman and Lamar are going to finally this year be able to connect and both stay healthy at the same time to have a full season together? It's
a big hypothetical, isn't it? Because they've struggled to do so in the past, and they've struggled to be on the same page. This, to me, despite Rashad Bateman's extension, his 2-year extension here in Baltimore, is a make or break season for Rashad Bateman. It is, because of the injury history, because of the potential that we've seen year in and year out, and he just hasn't shown it. So I think Rashad Bateman hears all the outside noise, and you know good and well that he is working his tail off this offseason, or you would hope, to be a solid number 2 option for the team this season. Not Nelson Aguilar, Rashad Bateman. So Rashad Bateman, it's about, obviously, I don't know if you guys saw the videos last season that were put out, but he has the ability to beat defensive backs. I mean, it's on the tape. He's done it. But he's got to be a first or second look in this offense. And I think last season, it was tough because Todd Monken even talked about it. He was hurt going into the season, or like he was coming off that injury. So he didn't get a lot of offseason time with the team. Whereas now, full offseason with the team, he's at camp, the offseason camp. He's going to be at training camp as well. There's no issues with the contract. There's no questions up in the air about whether Rashad Bateman is going to show up to camp. So it's your time to shine, man. This team took a bet on you. They believe in you. If they didn't, they would have said, you know what? We're done. We're going to try to trade you. We're going to try to get rid of you. We're moving on. We took you in the first round. Good luck. Best of luck with another team. No, the Ravens believe in this guy. They believe he has the potential, just like a lot of people here in this fan base do. And you know what? I get why people have their doubts, but it's time for Rashad Bateman this season to prove everyone wrong, have a big season, and show why he was drafted in the first round and show why he can be a top option for Lamar Jackson going forward because they need him to be.
Go ahead, Cravante, you got something?
I'm ready to go down I-95 South. That's all I'm waiting for.
Real quick before we hop in the car. Go ahead, Dre.
Well, I was going to ask you. Okay, with the loss of Odell Beckham Jr., but the gain of Derrick Henry, do you think that Derrick Henry is the one who can put us over that hump and get us to the Super Bowl, or do you think it was a loss, being that we lost Odell Beckham Jr. and we're going to take maybe a step back offensively?
I don't think you guys are going to take a step back offensively by adding Derrick Henry. I think any defense that has to deal with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield, you not only have one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in NFL history with his speed, he's dropped some weight. And I think the reason he's dropped some weight is because you have this physical force and freak of nature in the backfield. Derrick Henry is built like a damn defensive lineman. I mean, the guy is huge. Imagine trying to tackle him. I'd have nightmares if I was on an opposing defense trying to game plan for this guy, because if he's not going to run through you, he's going to stiff arm you into the ground and make you pay for it. And on top of that, he's got the quickness to get to the outside. This isn't just like a downhill running back that is going to punish you at the line of scrimmage. If he gets to the outside, good luck. He's got great speed as well. And what I love about Derrick Henry and the offseason addition, he hasn't shown any signs of slowing down despite his age. He hasn't at all. And you have to wonder, like, okay, when is that going to happen? I don't think it's going to be this year with this offense. I think they went out and got him for a reason. And I think the Ravens truly upgraded, because you look at Odell Beckham Jr., I think it was a great veteran signing, and it was an option for Lamar Jackson. And the rumor was that's who Lamar Jackson wanted. They signed Odell Beckham Jr. They signed Lamar Jackson. Everyone was happy. But Odell Beckham Jr., he wasn't a huge part of the offense last season. He was a big part, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't like the make or break factor. With Derrick Henry, adding him, that is a make or break factor in the backfield. It really is.
Well, Rocco, I got two questions. Who's rushing the passer, and who's going to be the right tackle, you think, or who's going to possibly rise to the top when we get to training camp next week and actually put the pads on? Is it going to be Rosengarten, Falele, Makari? I don't know. Put them in the pot. Pick one.
A lot of question marks there, obviously, on the offensive line. I'll start with that first, and then we'll get to the pass rushers. But you don't draft a guy in the second round if he's going to sit on your bench, if you have 3 openings at the offensive line. So your 2 established guys right now are Ronnie Stanley, if he can stay healthy, at left tackle, and Tyler Linderbaum at center. So that leaves 3 openings. You got left guard, you got right tackle, you got right guard. You lost three veterans, and John Simpson, it was really cool to see just him battle it out in training camp last season. It was cool to see him win the job. And he's on to the next. Joins the Jets, him and Morgan Moses both. And you got holes to fill, man. You do. I could see Rosengarten, but time will tell with camp. That's where, and like Lamar was asked about that. He's obviously unsure. And even if he knew, he's not going to put it out there right now. But training camp is going to be telling. That's where the breakthrough players, the stars, you see the battles won. I think after the first week, we're going to get a good idea of who that right tackle, that right guard, and potentially that left guard is going to be. But it wouldn't surprise me if Rosengarten wins one of those starting positions. Second round draft pick, you don't go out and get a guy in the second round if he's not going to start for your team this season.
And I want to ask you.
Sorry. Yeah, pass rush too. You want me to go on that too?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you think?
Yeah. So pass rush, that was the biggest question marks last season, and the Ravens answered those questions with the additions of Van Noy and Clowney. Like, it was, okay, are we going to rely on Odafe Owe and David Ojabo and a guy you just drafted in Tavius Robinson to get the job done? The answer is no. They went out and got a Van Noy, which was a great signing because he had a career season. They went out and got a Clowney, which was a great signing because he had a career season. Clowney obviously gone, Van Noy back. I thought getting one of those 2 guys back was crucial, depending on who you wanted back. But again, you talk about Rashad Bateman with them bringing him back. Odafe Owe, same thing goes for you, my man. You got to step up. You got to be healthy. And you have to go out there and show this team and this fan base why they brought you back. Have a big season. Ojabo health is key with him. If he's healthy, he could be scary, but it's always a what if. So I would love to see him healthy, a full season of David Ajabo, what that could potentially bring to the defense as well.
With that said, how are you feeling about Trenton Simpson starting his first year starting?
Love it.
Raj is a big Trenton Simpson fan, by the way. He told me he loves Trenton Simpson.
I'm a big Trenton Simpson guy too. When we interviewed him after the draft, that guy just exudes confidence. And it's not a cockiness, it is confidence. He goes, it was funny because I think he talked in third person. He's like, Trenton Simpson's going to be one of the best players to ever go down to Ravens. I'm like, damn, all right, man, I'm fired up, ready to run through a brick wall now. But with him, he got to what was great with the Trenton Simpson draft pick, okay? I feel like the Ravens knew, I mean, at the time, they obviously knew they weren't going to bring back Patrick Queen. So they let him walk after this season. Despite him having a Pro Bowl season, best season of his career, they were thinking, okay, we're thinking about the future. We can go out and get a guy. He can learn behind Queen. He can learn aside Roquan Smith, pick his brain a little bit, and then maybe he'll be ready in year 2. And I think that's exactly what you're getting. This guy is fast. This guy is physical. And this guy is ready to be an inside linebacker alongside Roquan Smith in Baltimore. I love everything about Trenton Simpson. I think he could have a fantastic season. We got a small sample size against the Steelers last year in that final game. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're going to get a much bigger sample size in training camp, preseason. I'm sure he'll play in preseason. And then when the season actually begins, you're going to see what Trenton Simpson's made of. I'm glad you're a fan of him too, because I think this guy is capable of so much here in Baltimore. I think the fan base is going to fall in love with him.
All right. Let me ask this question. Who do you think is the biggest threat to the Chiefs?
Right now?
We had this conversation earlier, by the way, Rocco. So rank your AFC teams outside the Chiefs.
Did we really have a conversation earlier?
Okay, all right.
We started.
Well, we started at 2.
This is not Homer talk at all. I think it's the Ravens. How can it not be with what they added offensively? And I know they lost Mike McDonald, but Zach Orr, I mean, it's not like you guys ended up getting Zach Orr from nowhere. First of all, he played in the organization. And second of all, he was a part of the coaching staff. He knows this defense better than anybody, probably aside from Mike McDonald. Health is going to be key, of course. But for me, the Ravens are 2. Like, it's like that. Well, if we're talking about biggest contenders, the Ravens are 1. They're the biggest contender for the Chiefs right now. Would you guys agree? Would you guys disagree? Like, what's
because I mean, you hear like some analysts out there talking about the Bengals, being that the Bengals have a good record.
Raj,
the Chiefs.
What do you do? He said this.
I mean, the Texans is another team that's been thrown out there.
See, this is
all right.
This is my thing. This is my thing. I think that we are. Yeah. I just want to see it. Okay, I just want to see it.
That's fair. That is fair.
And I think that has to do with the record being that, like you were saying, Lamar, they're 4-1 against them right now, but it's like you said, they just need that one victory. And I think it's really I think it really boils down to like the playoffs, like how it reminds me of when I was saying in our chat earlier. It's like the Ravens could beat Tom Brady and the Patriots. And so that was never like a scary moment for like the Ravens. It was really for us, it was Peyton Manning. And once we got over Peyton Manning in that Denver game, I knew then, I was like, Ravens going to win the Super Bowl. And I feel like that's kind of how it is with the Chiefs. I feel like if we beat the Chiefs, we're going to win. Like, we're going to win it all. It's just like a mental thing, like you were saying earlier about if a guy beats you in a video game like 8 times, it's like, all right, I have to do something to beat him. But once you do it, like, then like, all right, like you got that monkey off your back.
That is why the Thursday night game to open the season, it's not meaningless. It's obviously a regular season game, but if the Ravens beat the Chiefs week 1, it's not going to mean anything, obviously, as far as postseason goes. Until you beat them in the postseason and you get past them in the postseason, no matter if it is this round, the next round, or the AFC Championship game, it's not going to matter. If you do that, the confidence level is going to be through the roof. And I'll tell you what, that's not going to be the Ravens Super Bowl if they beat the Chiefs, but it's going to be a damn big win if they do. And it's going to be a big confidence booster going forward because right now you talk about, obviously they have the AFC North rivals. That is the rivalry, the rival that everyone is looking at. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Ravens, Chiefs. That's what it is right now. That's what football fans want to see. And that's why that game will open the NFL season. But again, they have it circled on their calendar. I know they do. It's like the Ravens can tell you that they don't. Everyone in that locker room is thinking about this game. They want to make a statement to open the season against the team that just ended their season last year. They do. Why wouldn't you? But again, if they do it in the regular season, fine. They're 1-0. If they do it in the postseason, that's big. That's where it's going to matter the most. If they can get past the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the postseason, it is going to mean so much more than a regular season win on a Thursday night.
Facts.
Go ahead, Cravante. I know you've been waiting patiently, brother.
Before we gas up the pacer, I do want to say one thing. As far as I said we were having this conversation earlier. I wasn't involved. I just want to see if anybody was saying anything crazy, because there's no way that the Ravens aren't too. There's absolutely no way. Now, outside of the AFC North, the only team that there's the brick wall, the barrier, is the Chiefs. Now, the Bengals healthy, very dangerous. But again, Joe Burrow's health has been up and down since he's been in the league. The Steelers, it's always a thing. I don't care how good the Steelers look on paper, they always play the Ravens tough. No matter, and that's in Baltimore or Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. The Steelers, as Byron has said many times, they're like roaches. They don't go away.
They don't die, Rocco. They always come back.
They don't. They're always coming back. Exactly.
It just is what it is. And also, I think something that people aren't really thinking about. The Ravens have the hardest strength of schedule because everybody in the AFC North makes the playoffs. There's no other division that's as black and blue as the AFC North. Now, granted, the Ravens number 1 seed, so they're gonna play all the division leaders, but also they have to play the AFC North. That's 6 games from winning teams for the most part. Yeah. So this is not just a regular first place schedule. You got a first place schedule, and then you got a first place division. You know what I'm saying? So the Ravens will always be. I feel like the Ravens will always be top 5 in strength of schedule, just off the division that they're in.
Oh, I agree. In this season, like, you're looking at not only the teams they're playing, but we talked about that brutal stretch. 3 games in 10 days is insane to me. And that is why the bye for the Ravens could not come at a better time. And that's why they have their bye, I feel like, so late. After they play the Eagles, I believe that's when it is. And then you go Giants on December 15th, Steelers 12-21, which is always a tough game. You're going to beat the crap out of each other. And then you go Texans, who are an up-and-coming team in the National Football League. And they played the Ravens really well in the first half of that AFC divisional round game. And not only that, they've added weapons for C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud's a stud. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league in year 2. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league in year 1 as a rookie, which is crazy to say. But then you add weapons for him. You get a solid running back in Joe Mixon in the backfield. You got guys on offense. You got guys on defense. They add Danielle Hunter as a pass rush guy. Like, you're looking at the studs they have on both sides of the ball, and you're like, damn, the Texans could be a team that could be a contender this season. And I would not rule that out at all. Don't count the Texans out. But yes, if you scroll down and you go all the way down to that schedule to let's go into December right now. 12-01, okay, they got the Eagles. And the Eagles, before they absolutely collapsed, were one of the best teams in football last year. And the year before that, correct me if I'm wrong, they went to the Super Bowl. Okay? Yep. So that's what you're looking at with Philly. And they've upgraded as well on both sides of the ball. Then you got the bye. So after playing 13 weeks of football, then you finally get a bye. Then week 15, you go at the Giants. It's not a home game, okay? Then you go Steelers at home, where you're going to beat the crap out of each other, and you hope you can get out of it healthy. Oh, and then 4 days later, you play the Houston Texans on Christmas in a short turnaround.
On a Wednesday.
You know what that does to your body if you're like, obviously I didn't play the game of football at the professional level, but like, you see guys just like walk out of the locker room and they look battered. I mean, they just beat the crap out of each other for 4 quarters. That stretch right there, like I said, that can make or break the Ravens at the end of the year. And it's tough. And then don't count out the Browns with anything, depending on if they stay healthy as well. So that's a tough final stretch for the Ravens. But you know what? They had a tough final stretch this year. And what did they do? They go like 5-1 or 4-2 or something along those lines. I think the only loss, correct me if I'm wrong, was to the Steelers in that span. If you're looking at it, I got to go back. But yeah, they played that stretch well. They played teams well that we were like, okay, we're looking at the end of the year. You're looking at a Rams team that could potentially make the playoffs, a Jaguars team that could potentially make the playoffs. You got the Chargers. You had the Niners that ended up going to the Super Bowl. And then you had the Dolphins that had one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. And then you finish off with the Steelers. And in that span, they went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-1. Exactly. Their only loss being a game that they didn't play their starters against the Steelers. They could have won that as well.
Gas it up. Gas up the pacer, guys. I'm driving. All right. So, you guys, you've been talking all this goodness. The Ravens, I've known for pretty much all my life, the Ravens have been a top-notch, very class A organization with how they manage and been able to have a consistent winning product on the field. We're going to do a complete 180. We're going to do a complete 180. The Commanders have been terrible for the majority part of my life. Terrible management, terrible product on the field, terrible stadium. It's so many things going on. And I finally get some relief. I finally get relief, and things are slowly starting to turn around. And it seems as though we have some competent people in upper management. We have some competent coaching, and we have some competent players. Yep. This should shift some direction in where we're going. Now, what were your thoughts on, how do I say, the Daniel Snyder removal, and why did it take so long? That's my first question.
It seems like these things take a while, like the ownership changes, like they take months, if not years, to get done and get completed, and it takes two sides to tango. And all I know is this about it. When I think the Bowie Bay Sox had a day where it was like, Daniel Snyder's gone day or something along those lines. That says all you need to know about how people felt about him. Like, not only with the Commanders fan base, but the rest of the National Football League. He was not a well-liked guy at all. And honestly, wasn't a great owner. Like, he wasn't. He was, if you polled people, they'd probably put him up there as one of the worst, if not the worst owner in all of sports. Like, he was in that realm, in that category. So this is a breath of fresh air, what the Commanders are getting now, with the group led by Josh Harris, with the group that includes Magic Johnson. Josh Harris has experience owning teams. He was a part of the Sixers ownership group. I think he still is. Could be wrong, but the Devils as well. And Magic Johnson, you're talking about one of the best point guards of all time. And it's like, okay, what does Magic Johnson know about football? It doesn't matter. Magic Johnson knows a lot about business, and Magic Johnson knows a lot about sports, and he knows a lot about winning. So I love it for the Commanders. I do. I think they have the right people at the helm right now. Time will tell, of course, because if they suck, people are going to tell them they suck. You're going to see it on social media. You're going to tell them that they suck. I know. So it's like, it's understandable, man. But the picks they made, the moves they made, I think, this isn't, obviously we're not going to see the Commanders win the Super Bowl this season. If they do, I'm not going to go out and say I'm going to get a tattoo, but I might. Like that's how confident I am that they're not. But the thing that you want as a fan, the thing that the fan base wants in general is an upwards trend, trending in the right direction. And I think with the draft they just had and the moves they made, I think they're in a good position going forward. They just have to keep building off of that and not take 3 steps backwards this upcoming offseason.
Next, I love Adam Peters as a GM. He's doing everything that that they said he would do. You know what I'm saying? As far as helping facilitate, along with John Lynch, that 49ers team over the years, and being able to bring that, because we have a lot of holes over here, whole lot of holes. We got a little bit of money, but have a lot of holes to fill. And I think he's doing an amazing job with that. Now, to something I did not care for. What were your thoughts about the whole Ben Johnson situation? Like the whole taking the airplane to Detroit, and on the way to Detroit, getting a call like, "Hey, guys, not feeling it. I'm backing out," and then continue on to as if y'all just really wanted to interview Glenn, Coach Glenn. What were your thoughts on that whole debacle? And especially as a Commanders fan, I was like, here we go again. You know what I'm saying?
All right, let me ask you this. If you were walking into what the Commanders just had for the last however many years, would you want to be the first coach hired after that? There are guys that would, but it's like you probably questioned it a little bit. And you have second thoughts. It's like, okay, are they going to build this team the right way? So, yeah, I don't know what happened with the Ben Johnson situation, but I will say this. In getting a guy like Quinn, I think are you mad about it? Do you like the hire? Do you hate the hire? Like, how do you feel right now with that hire and like with what they brought in?
One thing I know that Dan Quinn knows how to do. He knows defense, and he knows how to put together a coaching staff.
Yes.
That's one thing everywhere he's been, well, in Atlanta, and he's had great guys around him. And I think he's okay with like letting people do their jobs. I think that's important, especially being a leader. And how things ended in Atlanta, I think he will really learn from it and moving forward with the Commanders. So at first I was like, I was a little down, but I was like, he's putting a hell of a coaching staff together. Like, it's a lot of guys that could have high positions in other organizations, but they're choosing lesser roles to be with Dan Quinn and the Commanders.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. But what you're getting in Dan Quinn is a guy that, he took a team to the Super Bowl. It was, we don't want to talk about that Super Bowl if you're Dan Quinn, the Falcons, but he did take a team to the Super Bowl and realize how hard that is to do in the National Football League with a team that at times can be the laughing stock of football with the moves they make in the Atlanta Falcons. So he was able to do that. He was able to be successful there for the time being. Maybe he could do something similar with the Commanders. Now, I'm not saying the Commanders are ever going to be a Super Bowl contender, but that's the hope, right? Yep. Got a great quarterback in Jaden Daniels, one that just won the Heisman. So, okay, you got him. You just added Austin Eckler. People can say what they want about his tenure, how it ended in Los Angeles, but you got a running back that can not only do stuff on the ground, but he can make plays out of the backfield as well when it comes to a receiving situation. So offensively, you guys are making the right moves. Your receiving core, not bad at all. You have solid receivers around Jaden Daniels. That's what you want. It's how can you continue to build off of what you have. And with Peters, we'll see. We'll see. But I think you have the right two people in the driver's seat going forward for the Commanders. I don't think it's going to be too many losing seasons that we're going to talk about. Now I know the NFC East it's tough. It's brutal. You talk about the AFC North being the best division in football. The NFC East, when the teams are at the top of their game, it's one of the best as well. Like, you could have 3 teams make the playoffs when it all comes down to it. I know the Giants have been down. They've had their ups and downs, and the whole Saquon debacle was crazy as well. But, it's a competitive division. So how are the Commanders going to respond to that? Like I said, Quinn, Peters, Daniels, I think that's the right recipe going forward for the time being. But it all depends on what they add and if they can build around Jaden Daniels the right way, because that guy is going to be the centerpiece of your franchise. So make him seem like the centerpiece of your franchise.
I absolutely agree. Now, one of my last question, offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the defensive side of the ball too much because I know Dan Quinn's going to get them right.
Yeah.
Sooner, I think the defense is going to look significantly better than the offense early on because the offense is going to take time, chemistry, all that stuff. But and these guys will tell you, I've been concerned. I've had the same concern for at least the last 5 years. Matter of fact, since whenever Trent Williams left, the offensive line, I have been concerned about this core for some time now. Like I said, pretty much since Trent Williams left, I've been concerned. And one thing I know is that if you have a top tier offensive line as a core, you're probably a great team. You're probably a great team.
Yep.
Now, new quarterback, running guy, he gets a lot of comparison to like Lamar Jackson and all that. Pump the brakes. I mean, I get it, but pump the brakes.
Yep.
I'm concerned about my offensive line. Left tackle. We got the guy Wiley from the Chiefs, terrible at right tackle. I'm so concerned because I don't want Jaden Daniels. I need him to survive.
Yes,
he's the centerpiece. Just like you said, he's the centerpiece. He needs to make it. And Adam Peters, he was trying to do some wheeling and dealing, couldn't get a guy, or at least not at his price. So moving forward, what are some things that Cliff Kingsbury and other offensive minds on the Commanders can do to make sure Jaden Daniels makes it through this first year?
Listen, I think the big thing is just you upgrade the damn offensive line if you can. You do everything you can in the offseason. You see how training camp goes, but you try to get an established offensive line in there because the last thing you want is Jaden Daniels running for his life. You want him to be as precise as humanly possible back there. You want him to be able to pick apart defenses not only with his arm, but then scramble. You don't want this to be a scramble because I have to make plays and run for my life. And that's how we're going to potentially win football games, because then you're going to end up like it's inevitable that you're going to get hurt if you're not protected. It is. You get hit enough times, I mean, you're going to get hurt. So upgrading the offensive line should be a top priority. But, I mean, you got to get the ball to your receivers quick, I guess, if you're Cliff Kingsbury. Eckler, having him, that's great because what can you do? You swing him out to the left, you swing him out to the right, you dump it off. Eckler can make plays with his legs as well. So for me, if I was an offensive coordinator in the National Football League, which I will never be, those are the options right now until you get an offensive line. Because the last thing you want is Jaden Daniels just chucking it up deep and praying and hoping that a receiver is going to come down with the ball. That's how bad things happen. You've seen it before.
Of course, and over again. But one last thing, one last question on the defense. Emmanuel Forbes. He, again, you can talk to these brothers. I was not happy. I was not happy with that pick because Gonzalez was on the board. He was right there for the taking. Now, Ron Rivera and them said they've been scouting Emmanuel Forbes. They said they're going to take him no matter what. Absolutely hated it. But we're here. I don't think he got great coaching last year. The team was terrible. We saw. We had the second overall pick, so terrible. Should I want to erase what I saw last year from Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah.
Because there is going to be a significant jump in coaching, but can he be the guy on the outside?
Dan Quinn, you talk about defense and how he's able to unlock, the potential and tap into a defense. I think with Dan Quinn, that's the perfect 1-2 punch right there. Coaching a guy like Emmanuel Forbes up. It's year 2. I'd say don't overreact yet because I know as a football fan, it is very hard not to do, but give this guy some time. You got one full season of him, okay? See what he does in training camp, and then in the first couple games of the regular season. If he completely sucks and he's back there like, you're calling him burnt toast week 3 because receivers are just like taking the top off Emmanuel Forbes, then there's some cause for concern. But year 2, let's see what he does. They drafted him 16th overall, was it, for a reason in that first round. So They believe in this guy. They think he can be the guy. And with Dan Quinn coaching him up, there's a really good chance that he could be the guy in Washington.
Caronte, think Brandon Stevens. Just think Brandon Stevens.
He could have a breakout year, man. He could have a breakout year. Year one is always weird with rookies. Not everyone is going to be Sauce Gardner as a rookie.
And also at corner. Corner is a tough position to be in as starting as a rookie. So, I am holding out hope. It's just I hope he gets his head right. I hope he gets in the weight room, man, because he's going to play AJ Brown twice a year until the Eagles get rid of him. So that's a matchup that's concerning me. But I'm gonna trust Dan Quinn and defensive coordinator Joe Witt is gonna get him right.
Yeah, AJ Brown, another guy I just wouldn't want to cover or go up against. Like, imagine an offense with AJ Brown and Derrick Henry and DK Metcalf. You're talking about just like three dudes that live in the weight room that would just punish everyone on the field. It's crazy.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Rocco. Let's get to these O's, man. I got my honey on today. We know they're first place in the AL East. I really think they're going to start running away with this division. So if you look up in 2 weeks and they're up at like 7 games, don't be surprised. Dre's Yankees are struggling right now. We've seen this movie last year, best record having home field. The All-Star break is approaching. Trade deadline is approaching. A lot of prospects they can dangle. A lot of teams are still in it, so not a lot of people selling. What do you see happening in the second half of the season for the O's? Do they need to make a major moves? Maybe a Roquan Smith-esque trade like the Ravens did, but it's going to cost you. And what do you think is needed before they can really get over the hump? Hopefully last year they learned from the experience.
I think they definitely need another starting pitcher because with Kyle Bradish going down, when you look at a healthy rotation, I had all the confidence in the world going into a postseason matchup with Corbin Burns, Kyle Bradish, and Grayson Rodriguez being the O's top 3 starting pitchers, because you put those 3 up against anybody, it's going to be tough to win games for the other team. Now Kyle Bradish goes down, and you lose John Means, and you lose Tyler Wells. So that's 3 players that were in your starting rotation at one time or another that are done for the year with elbow injuries. It's tough. The injury bug sucks. And like it's happening all across baseball, especially with the elbows, because pitchers are just throwing hard. And it's the times. Times have changed in baseball. So guys are throwing harder. Elbow injuries are, more likely to happen at times. So unfortunately, it happened to the Orioles with Bradish. And it's tough because this is a guy that was in Cy Young contention last season. I mean, what he did was incredible. And having him back this year, like there was a bump in the road early on where he had to start the season on the IL because he had that setback with the right UCL sprain. And then it was like, okay, is Kyle Bradish going to pitch it all this season? The fact that he did, the fact that he gave the Orioles games plural, was huge because those are wins the team was able to pick up. Now you might say, okay, they were wins early on in the season. They're going to matter in the later months when the Orioles are trying to contend for the division. But with the PRP shot, it was like a Band-Aid. And with Band-Aids eventually come off. They do. Eventually you have to get a new Band-Aid. For Kyle Bradish, unfortunately, like the Band-Aid ripped right off and he's got to undergo Tommy John surgery, or he did undergo Tommy John surgery. So with that being said, the O's, I'd love to see them go out and get a starting pitcher, a solid number 2 if they can, but not overspend. Yes, they do have a fresh crop of talent down there on the farm, like with the prospects, with the guys they have. But what you don't want to do is overpay for a guy, and then that really bites you in the you-know-what in the second half of the season, and you're like, we just made a move for that. We just got rid of a prospect for that. Case in point, this guy did work out for the Padres, but they didn't win a World Series. And we're talking about, the Commanders. I don't know if you're a Nationals fan as well, my man, but Juan Soto goes from the Nationals to the Padres, and the Padres gave up a haul for him. And now you're seeing a James Wood. Now you're seeing a Mackenzie Gore. Now you're seeing a CJ Abrams come up and flourish up there. The future is so bright for the Nationals right now. It really is because of the guys they got. And what did the Padres get out of that? Nothing. They got Juan Soto.
Mediocrity.
They didn't win a World Series. They did not win a World Series. And that's the ultimate goal, to win a World Series. And now Soto, he's with the Yankees. They got to haul back. But That's what you're looking at with these things. It could go one way or another. And for the Orioles, Mike Elias is a genius. Analytically, the way he's been able to make moves, the way he's been able to draft. His first draft, he got Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson back-to-back picks or back-to-back rounds. The guy knows baseball. He knows what he's doing. And I know there's going to be overreaction regardless of what he does, but if Mike Elias can go out and get a top-end starting pitcher that can not only last this season but can help you next season as well, I think this fan base is going to be happy, and I think the O's are going to be in a great position going forward.
Speaking of that, where do you see the O's finishing out the season? Do you think they actually win a playoff series this time?
I do. Last year, they had a lot of guys that were inexperienced when it came to postseason play. This was new to a lot of these guys. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, a ton of guys I can name had no postseason experience whatsoever. They didn't know what to expect. Not only that, they ran into a freaking buzzsaw with the Rangers. Mm-hmm. It's, as a fan, you think sometimes you're like, okay, we lost to this team. Do we want them to go win the World Series now? Because that could have been us. Or do we hate them because they just beat the hell out of us? For O's fans, they had to make that decision. But what I know about the Rangers, they got hot at the right time. They were able to go on a run, and they were running through anyone that was put in front of them because of starting pitching, and that's what you need to win a World Series, and because they got hot offensively. So I think for the O's this season, yes, I absolutely not only see them winning one postseason series, the question is, can they go out and win the whole series, like the World Series? And I truly think they can, but they're going to have to make the moves necessary to put them in place. With the team they have right now, they can get there. But adding another starting pitcher and maybe a reliever, that's going to put you over the top. That's going to be like, all right, we're really cooking now.
Well, Rocco, before we get you out of here, I got one more question because we do want to show love to the ladies, and we're going to talk about this after you leave us. Who's the WNBA Rookie of the Year? We got the ladies revolutionizing the game. We got Caitlin Clark. We got Angel Reese, Baltimore's own.
Right now, you can't put me on the spot with that. Can we give it to both?
Yes.
They're just both fantastic players, honestly. And I know that's such a cop-out answer, but Caitlin Clark, statistically, what she's doing is incredible. But Angel Reese, the double-double streak, what she's doing is incredible. And this is, people have their opinions about the WNBA, and they're like, oh, yeah, Caitlin Clark didn't change the game. Angel Reese is she's mad at the whole Caitlin Clark thing. I disagree with both things. I think they're both changing the game in their own way. And I really don't think there's build-up animosity for Angel Reese towards Caitlin Clark. I think Angel Reese, she's from Baltimore. People from Baltimore compete. And people from Baltimore, sometimes they're not nice about the way they compete when they're in between the lines. And that's okay. It's the swagger that you carry when you're from this city. You carry this city and you wear it with pride. And you want everyone to know about it. And that's okay. Angel Reese has been fantastic. Caitlin Clark's been fantastic. The rivalry, how many people do you know that didn't watch the NBA before this season that are talking about Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, the rivalry? Do they like each other? Do they hate each other? This is awesome. And you know what? They're sitting back and laughing about it. They are. And they probably talk after the game look at what's happening right now. It is one of the best things to happen to this league, to the sport, this rivalry, if you want to call it that. And they're carrying it the right way. I love it. And I think they are both deserving of Rookie of the Year at this point in time because of what they're doing. I can't pick one right now, man. I can't. I'm going to cop out. If you talk to me in a few months, I hope you guys have me back on. Maybe I'll have a better answer. But it's so hard because Caitlin Clark, what'd she do? She had a
triple-double.
Yeah, she just had a triple-double, and Angel Reese still had 13 straight double-doubles.
First rookie in WNBA history.
Against the Liberty, by the way, a good team.
And exactly. And Angel Reese, she's got the double-double streak in WNBA history. I mean, she's been fantastic. So to pick one or the other right now, I can't. They're both great. Let's give both of them their flowers and enjoy the WNBA as it is right now because they're both bringing so much attention and so much just notoriety to the game of women's basketball right now. And it's really cool to see.
Real quick, how was it talking to Ice Cube? How was it talking to Ice Cube? I did see you got to talk to Ice Cube, by the way.
It is so cool. And I try not to get starstruck in interviews, but you guys are on StreamYard, so you got the guests back there. Mm-hmm. When Ice Cube, when we heard him, it was like the pop when they joined the StreamYard. I looked over at my buddy Zach, and I was just like, Like my jaw was unhinged. Like I was like, oh man, like this is about to go down. Getting him was so cool because not only like is he a big name, he's down to earth. We were just, having a good time, having a good conversation. Like we're not asking him anything crazy. We're just having fun. Like Ice Cube was like one of the hosts of the show. And Ryan's messing with him about the hot dogs. We're doing that because that's a question. Like we have a sponsorship with Stuggies. And it's like the question is, what do you put on your dog? Like what goes on the dog? I might get a little heat here, but I'm a ketchup guy. Ice Cube was a mustard guy. Puts mustard on it. So Ryan, he's a sicko. He eats a plane. That, but is what it is.
Well, I had one final question for you. Who do you think is more likely to three-peat? The Las Vegas Aces, UConn men's basketball, or the Kansas City Chiefs?
Oh,
the Aces.
Yeah.
Listen, we're talking a lot about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and because they're the two young talented rookies that are in here and just going head to head. Asia Wilson is unfreaking.
Oh my gosh, I love
number one. She's unreal. The team they have is unreal, and the coach they have is unreal. So I see the Aces three-peating. I see them getting it done. They're just so good, so talented, and have they lost a lot this past offseason? It's like they're only getting better. And then you add Kate Martin, who was one of the steals of the draft. Like, what are they doing over there in a good way? They've been fantastic. So, yeah, I think that's the more likely thing. Football, it's hard to do, obviously. And then you talk about NCAA, like the players that come in, the players that go. You have freshmen a lot of the times playing. I think that's going to be tough for UConn. But, yeah, the Aces are my pick right there.
Well, Rocco, you have been fantastic, my guy, and you are always our number one pick. Give it up one more time, everybody, for the one, the only Rocco DiSangro, Fox 45. Check him out nightly. Let the people know how to keep up with you. How can they follow you? What you got going on with the old Ryan Ripken podcast? I know your good friend Brad is back there. Shout out to Brad.
Yeah, Brad's back there.
Shout out to Brad. Still holding on.
He's chilling on the couch right now, so he's kicking it.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can watch me on Fox 45, sports anchor reporter there. Follow me on X at Rocco DiSangro and on Instagram at rdisangro. And then the Ryan Ripken Show, we're trying to put out so much content with that show right now. I mean, we're trying to put out shorts. We're trying to put out long form videos. You can watch us live Mondays and Thursdays after O's games. We're doing a new thing that's called Kevin and Zach Reacts, where we're going live after the post-game streams. If you're an O's fan, join. We love to hear people's opinions on the show, and you can follow us there. So check out our stuff. It's at Ryan Ripken on X. That's where like a lot of our stuff is posted, or the Ryan Ripken Show on YouTube is where you can always find us. Guys, I really appreciate it. I'd love to be back on in the future. Let me know. Shoot me an email. I'll send you my number over right now, and we can get it going. So appreciate you all. Thank you so much for having me on. You guys do great stuff.
Hey, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. I'm envisioning a September return. Ravens getting the season started and the Orioles gearing up for the postseason, trying to get that World Series first time since 1983. Rocco, we're going to do this again. Yes, send that over. We're going to send you this interview as well tomorrow. We're going to clip it, send it to you so you can have it, show it to all your friends, family, and tell them about the Flex Zone podcast and tell them about the great things you're doing as well. Shout out to Ryan Ripken, shout out to Brad, and shout out to you again, Rocco. Appreciate you for taking time and being here with us on the Flex Zone podcast.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rocco. Appreciate it. We'll do it again real soon. One more time.